Oh man. Feeling that great, so I think I'll call it here. You can invite Nico to do the rest, is that okay?
Yeah, why not? If you're not feeling well enough, then of course we
Yeah, my
cannot do
head
anything
hurts a
about it.
little and I don't want to be here for another 40 minutes.
Alright. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, Rob is gone because he's not feeling that well, but yeah, I'm still here. Maybe someone else wants to join. So look at Michael Clark going to the backside of the stadium. Now approaching the fake marina section. We of course seen Valtteri Bottas crash. 22 Leclerc having a crash last year. What I was saying, this year, of course. Stupid craft mover. Not Tomaselli improved to P7. You look at Sana Troy, of course, who won a race last season, the Group 2 car, which is always very special in FE. What happened now? I thought my stream crashed. Once again, look at Michael Clark. Of course, with a strong end to his DTM campaign last time around, 22. Of course, first time since I think 2020. Oh, someone joined. I cannot see who it is. Oh, it's Joe. Hello, Joe.
Hello. Bit of an unscheduled arrival, but yeah. Thought I'd take
It's
over,
what it is.
seeing as Rob's feeling a little bit unwell. But anyway, as you were saying, Dennis.
Yeah, Clark, I was talking about his last season. Yeah, it was, I think, not bad, but could have had some improvements, like, for example, his safe-caused crash at Montreal, which comes instantly to my mind. But he, of course, first time in FIDA series, he, of course, wants to have a good season.
Yeah, indeed, and obviously currently P2 at the moment in this session, 37 fans off, got moved to Formula 2, just like the man who is at the top of the standings at the moment, Rubino Gonzalez, and well, it was quite an interesting season in DTM last season, and both Gonzalez and Clark with points to prove now that they're in Formula 2.
Yeah, indeed, especially for Gonzalez, as mentioned before, winning the title, of course, which, from the mid part of the season to the end, he looked like the favorite. He almost got a bit fallen off from his throne when Will Parrish had the 2 wins in a row with Montreal and Road America, but in the end, Gonzalez was come through and won the title.
Indeed so, and yeah, we're looking to do a good job. QZ correct, we've got a yellow flag. Is it at the same area where we've had previous crashes before? And it is Tobias Kress who's gone off this time by. I think that area is a little bit problematic, it must be said. And even with lower mistake rate, as Flo pointed out in the previous stream before OBS decided to mess up with him there. But yeah, seems to be a little bit of an area where the drivers are prone to mistakes.
Yeah, indeed. He's already the 4th driver, or actually 5th driver to crash there. The 4th driver who again has his session disrupted and completely ended. Yeah. But as we see, big lock up there on the Chelly's car and the Tony GP machine.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, indeed. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a little bit surprised that Flo actually chose another street circuit for testing, given what happened last season at Baku. But there we are, really. And it seems that Miami's got a little bit of a Baku bug going on.
Yeah, but especially at that corner when Chris cars away, the spare car ban will hit him as well.
Indeed so, as Cress will get hoisted over the barriers, and as soon as he's into the garage, that's when that happens. You mentioned about this flag glitch that's going on with the marshals. You mentioned, was that there during the Classic stream? Was it an issue on Flo's end, or was it track specific? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was the Classic OC race at Nürburgring last time out as well. So I don't know where it's coming from. Yeah, no.
Yeah, perhaps. Anyway, as he's now had the spare car blame for entered, so we've only got 18 cars left in this session, and only a total of 21 cars have done the time here, because of course Aaron Curtis started off the session by, well, crashing out really, and unfortunately he's got limited running in this, so he's going to have to wait till tomorrow at Imola to get some running in the car.
Yeah, of course. If you crash on the first run, it's always the worst time to crash. As we saw George China getting a bit unstable here. One of the corners before the fake intersection. Yeah, he kept it on track. But yeah.
We're seeing a lot of drivers making mistakes here, even at the beginning part of it, around turn number 5. I think we're also seeing some drivers making some mistakes as well. I think I even saw as well that a little bit earlier on in the session, Alexander Arnold was getting a little bit loose coming out of that corner there. But that's pretty much that. As we look at Francesco La Rosa, and obviously I mentioned the reason why it might be a bit confusing with commentators this season with Anderson and La Rosa in the Virtuosis, because both of them are carrying a Sebastian Vettel helmet with a similar design to it. So if you're looking at it from a distance, it might be a little bit confusing.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe, as I said before, we could get some sponsors. I don't know how many different sponsors they have, but if we could take the differences from their car now, then we have the differences.
Yeah, indeed, and well, we'll have to see how the commentators fare with that one, really. Well, after wait to see how the season goes. Might as well talk about another team whilst we're at it. Charouz, of course. A lot of people going into the season saying that they've possibly got the weakest lineup out of all of them. Marvo Koenig and Adam Chobot, both of whom coming off the back of seasons that were not very great for them. Marvo Koenig not having the best of seasons in Formula E, and also you have Adam Chobot, who came off the back of possibly his worst ever season in Formula 2, and both of them really needing some redemption this season.
Yeah, indeed. But I think for Chobot, could be a bit easier than for Koenig because he already is familiar with the F2 car. And Koenig, of course, as you mentioned, coming from FE, he also has to get adapted to these F2 cars. But of course, this is at this point it's still everyone's thing. As now Broster crashes, loses his rear wing, but he can continue.
Yep. So luckily, like what we saw with another driver earlier on, I can't remember who it was. It also Pulisic, she should be able to get away with that. We'll just have to come back into the pits and get a new rear wing. But yeah, once again, that corner is catching out a lot of drivers today.
Yeah, at this point we almost could get a count over that, but...
Indeed so. We're now right on board with James Sturt, who's just coming around the final corner now. Then let's see what he's able to do or not, because the camera decides to cut away. He actually goes up into 12th place as Mio Decelli battling with one of the Virtuosis around that corner. As we look at the man who's going to crash there. There's a crash there between Decelli and the Virtuosi that he was side by side with at that part of the track. They've clearly La Rosa, and they've clearly come to blows.
Yeah, I was thinking already when they approached that corner like that, I think this could end the crash, and unfortunately it did.
Looks like Sturt has also got some damage from that as well. It looks like he's caught some debris from that whole accident as well. And yeah, the wheel was bounced back onto the racing line there, and Sturt has unfortunately caught that one, so he's going to have to pit for a new front wing. But like with Baku last season, chaos at this test.
Yeah, indeed. I thought it couldn't be worse than Baku, but this track proven that it could be even worse. And then, look at La Rosa, he flipped the car.
He actually did a barrel roll, in fact. It wasn't a flip, he actually barrel rolled the car. The car didn't land until it actually landed on its 4 feet there. So, yeah, very impressive stunt there, it must be said.
Yeah, actually, it could be one of the most spectacular pre-season testing crashes ever.
Indeed, and well, luckily La Rosa able to get on 4 wheels again, but I bet he was basically seeing lots of things when he was rolling over there.
Yeah, indeed, of course. I think this type of crash is a bit less hard in terms of an impact than getting straight into the barrier. But yeah, of course. Oh, look at the jelly. I think he lost the wheel because of the debris there.
Indeed so, and unfortunately, both of their sessions have come to an end as a result. So we've only really got 16 cars left in this session.
Yeah, and we're not sure if any other cars could be pressuring out, but of course we still have 34 minutes to go.
Yeah, we haven't even got to the halfway point of this session yet. DeCelli in 5th place so far in this session, but I wonder if he's going to get beaten in the remaining 34 minutes of this session, really. But chaos here at the Miami International Autodrome here in Miami Gardens.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we are seeing this track once more for F2, but let's see.
I would hazard a guess that we'll probably not see it after this, to be honest with you, because I think this is a little bit too chaotic for these cars, really. And I think personally, in my honest opinion, I don't think street circuits should be used as preseason tracks. That's just my personal opinion on that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's just my opinion on that, especially with the. I know it's not got a higher mistake rate for this one, but when you usually go to tracks, you expect a higher mistake rate for practice, testing, or even qualifying, and it doesn't really work well with street circuits really when you're doing testing.
Yeah, indeed. I think classic, also permanent tracks are definitely a better option.
Yeah, indeed. I don't think we'll be seeing this much chaos anyway tomorrow when we're off at Imola, of course, but we'll have to wait and see if Sturk comes back in to get a new front wing. As a result of that, I only just realised only 2,000 separating Paris and Chue at the moment in 3rd and 4th position so far, so pretty close between those two drivers. Well, in fact, I've just realised the top 3 are actually drivers who were in DTM last season. Paris, of course, was fighting with Gonzalez for the title last season. Of course, he lost in the end to Gonzalez, but clearly the guys who drove in DTM last season definitely proving their worth so far.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, of course, also for these 3, it's a learning session. But I think they learn pretty quickly, especially Gonzalez and Clark with being so close at the front and also over 1.5 tenths ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, indeed. And on the topic of the team that Clark is driving for, I only just realised that Flo is actually now referring to him as Rodin Carlin. He never really mentioned that to us in the little chat that we're in, and nor did he mention it in any of the sign-up videos. But there we go, really. They are Rodin Carlin now, thanks to their livery.
Yeah, surprise, surprise!
Yeah, that's that, really. But we should point out as well that even though we're looking at these times right now, and they're looking quite quick for Gonzalez, Clark, and Parrish, as we've seen many times in the past, especially with Formula 2, because it is an equal series, you can't really read too much into these lap times.
Yeah, indeed, especially especially with this kind of testing session where I'm almost a third of the cars already out of the test, but yeah, I think tomorrow will be definitely a bit more clearer who has the most confidence or the best speed of against all the other drivers. As we have a yellow flag.
That's at the last corner this time. The last 2 corners on the racetrack, and it's China. Is that's a suspension failure? That's a suspension failure. So first time we've actually had a mechanical failure in this session.
Yeah, indeed. Now, they actually wanted to pit anyways. Oh, it just happened at the pit entry.
That's the worst timing to get a front left suspension failure, just as you're coming into the pits, really. And unfortunately for Chow China, that's his session done with. As Anderson now backs it into the wall just as that was happening. So we're down to 14. I think Flo's just mentioned as well in the stream chat that if it does go down to 11 cars, then he will red flag the session, because at the moment this has just been nuts.
Yeah, it seems like at the moment, actually, you could even think that actually there could be something down on track there.
Perhaps indeed, and that's Anderson's session done with as a result. We're down to 14 cars now in this session.
Yeah, pure chaos.
Indeed, and Chow China, that was obviously a mechanical failure, so a bit of a normal issue there, but I guess the Mechachrome kicking in again.
Well, not really, because it was a suspension failure. but I know what you mean.
Yeah, indeed. But now we're down to 14 cars left in this session. As Kirby, meanwhile, goes into 11th position. I was going to talk about Kulizec, actually, whilst we're at it, because obviously, if you saw last week as well, he was obviously part of the preseason test over at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg for Williams, and he was definitely very quick in that test, and it's kind of gutting really that he's not got a top class seat, because obviously given that he won the F2 title last season, you would have thought that maybe he would have had a chance at the top class, but sadly not the case.
Yeah, that is of course a mix of the teams where he signed up for, had very good competition, and also, yeah, I would say to you, if he would have gone to Aston Martin with his number 1 choice or even number 4 choice, he would have got the seat.
Yeah, indeed, but unfortunately, like what we've seen with a couple of F2 champions or even GP2 champions in the past, he missed out, of course. You even got Aaron Curtis here, a former F2 champion himself, that's still yet to get into the top class, and you do question whether or not he'll ever make it to the top class.
Yeah, that's I think one of the questions where you can answer just let's see. And now Clark had quite a big lockup.
He did indeed, clearly pushing a little bit too hard there in the road in Carlin, as we now look at Samuel Toscan, who's all over the back of one of the Tony Grand Prix cars now then. That would obviously be Alexander Arnold, because Decelli is obviously out of this session. He's the only Tony Grand Prix car now left in the session. Clark not improving there, it must be said, as he's 1.4 seconds off of Gonzalez at that point in time, so he's still remaining in second position, 37 thousandths off of Rubino Gonzalez at this stage, as he now makes his way through into the S's, through into this where the Frank Marina section of the racetrack is, as he now rounds the left-hander now, then we go, and now making our way onto the back straight now, then we will go on this racetrack now then, as it looks like he's just getting some mileage in the car, but he's now 4 tenths down on his personal best in that first sector there, so really I don't think Clark is on a push lap here.
No, not really, but of course it's important to get the long ones in, especially with the races. It's and sometimes could be absolutely hard for the cars. So it's important to get that data of multiple laps in at the same time.
Indeed so, as we now look at Nicholas Zorbach now then, as now making our way down the back straight, of course, teammate of Michael Clark this season, and like with Kulizec, of course, obviously looking to try and see if he can make into the top class, because of course he obviously missed out on the F2 title last season, and he'll be determined to try and get it this season.
Yeah, indeed, he will absolutely be determined, but if you're good last season, doesn't automatically confirm that you're good this season. He has to deliver those kind of performances yet again, and that is definitely I would say not that simple, as third had a lockup.
Yep, whilst getting overtaken there by, I think that was Joao Pedro Kirby, who also, like with Wojciech Kulizec, just coming off the back of a testing session in the top class for Aston Martin, since he's now the Aston Martin reserve driver after many drivers didn't accept him. One of them actually being on the grid in this one, to be honest with you, and he's actually in the stream chat right now, it must be said. But yeah, quite ironic really that he's got the Aston Martin reserve seat, while somebody who was actually in front of him in the queue didn't respond to their message there. So
not just one.
There were plenty who didn't respond to the message. It must be said, but also another one was Sturt, in fact, but he obviously actually saw the message in the end and realised he was a little bit too late to reply, but at least he accepted that anyway. Still haven't heard back from the other one, who's obviously in this F2 series as well, and obviously that's that really. And I think it's probably because they've set their Twitter account, because we're not calling it X, we're calling it Twitter, to people who have been verified. Only people who are verified can message them. A little bit bizarre, if you ask me. I didn't know you could actually set it to that, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, so Sturt has once again another lockup here. But they're also on this grid. We have at least 3 drivers who competed day 4 of the preseason testing, of course. These are Kulizec, Nicolas Zorba for Haas, Kulizec and Williams, as mentioned before, and Kirby and Aston Martin. The 4th driver is not racing here.
Yeah, indeed, and Yeah, it should be interesting to see how they do this season. Those drivers in particular. And I did have another topic in my head, but it's kind of escaped my head there a little bit. So. Yeah, I did have something I wanted to talk about, but now I just can't remember what it was now. Oh yeah, that was it. And now I've remembered, of course, because we were talking about the two drivers who were fighting for the championship last season, or two of them at least, Wojciech Kulisesh and Nicholas Zorbat. But another one who was in the title fight, but he's not competing this season, is of course Hento Tsunonome. And the reason for that, of course, was because he missed out on the F2 sign-ups. He's instead going to be competing in DTM this season, and DTM looking to be quite exciting this season, given that it will be the first season that is an equal car performance.
Yeah, on the one side, I was, when it was announced, a bit disappointed that the equal DTM series was over, but at the same time, excited that we see a completely new era for DTM with new cars, new manufacturers, yeah, and also a lot of new drivers, some experience, some. We also have a complete rookie there. I think we will talk about that on Friday when the preseason testing for DTM kicks off.
Yeah, indeed. And, well, for DTM, there's also some history in that as well, because day 2 of that test will be taking place on a fictional track known as St. Gilts, I think it's pronounced as. So, be quite interested to see how that goes out for DTM. I wonder if Flo is actually using it for a reason, though. I mean, he obviously gets to decide the wildcard race in F2, but there's also a TBA race in DTM. I wonder if Flo is using that track for a specific reason. Yeah, I'm going to keep my suspicions... I'm going to keep a close eye on that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, as we now look at Lorenzo Tomaselli now then, who's actually back in Formula 2, it must be said, for this season, of course. He's been out of the series since for the last couple of seasons. Recently made his return to the OC fraternity in 2022 in World Champ Car, but now he's back in Formula 2 with MP Motorsport, and clearly has got unfinished business in this series.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he raced here quite a lot of times, to be honest. I just have to check when was the last time when he was in GP2, because he didn't race.
I think it was
F2
2020.
before.
2020 was the last time he was in it. So yeah, he was obviously didn't compete in 2021. Came back in the OC fraternity in 2022 via World Champ Car, and here he is again in Formula 2.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, just very interesting career from, let's say it like this.
Indeed so, and another driver making their return to the feeder series is Thomas Anderson. The last time we saw him was actually in 2019, of course, where he just missed out on the title to Dudu Kirby that season, of course, and then for the next 2 seasons he kind of disappeared, it seemed, but he made his return to the OC fraternity in 2022 via World Champ Car. A pretty good season with Pyramid Racing, and did so much so, in fact, that he and Adam Wolf were able to win the team's title in that series out of nowhere, and, well, he's now back here in Formula 2, and it's very clear he wants to try and reclaim that title that he just missed out on in 2019.
Yeah, indeed. Also for him, as I mentioned, it will be is a bit of unfinished business. So of course, I mean, last time out when he raced here, 2019, GP2, especially at Brazil, at the early part of the race, it looked like he was actually challenging for the championship, because of course Dudu Kirby and Jamie Griffiths crashed at the pit entry. Then yeah, but Anderson got overtaken by Dennis Graf, who later won that race. But yeah, at the end, Anderson, of course, suffered that engine failure that confirmed his, at the time, end of career, of course, end of championship challenge.
Yeah, indeed. Meanwhile, Sana Choi now goes up into second position, 34 thousandths off of Rubino Gonzalez. So now she gets herself into the top 3. Of course, she comes from Formula E, of course, and obviously coming off the back of quite an impressive season in the Group 2 Envision Virgin Racing Car. Even took her first ever OC victory last season in Formula E, and clearly able to get into Formula 2 this season. And she definitely, so far in this session, showing how quick she is.
Yeah, indeed. But I'm actually not sure if that's Choi or is that Chobot, because we have both.
That's a good point. It's Chobot. Okay, fair enough. And actually, to be fair, Flo did mention that there was supposed to be a different 3-letter prefix for Sana Choi, but for some reason, either that or you forgot to do it, Flo. That's the second option. either that.
God damn it, GP4.
Next thing you know, you look on in the performance file and you'll see that you might have accidentally deleted it before you press saved. So we'll see. We'll see when you check this out tomorrow. Of course, when we're at Imola, but. It's actually Chobot then at the top, in second place actually. That's 34,000, not Choi. She's currently down in 20th at the moment. CHI is a flea prefix for today, of course, but she will have SNC by tomorrow, which stands for Sana Choi, of course. The SN, obviously, for her first name. And obviously somebody else who wanted to have a prefix for their first name, Rahul Patel, making everyone aware of what his nickname is. But anyway.
I think Ra's taken some, I would say, he took that from Amelia Wilson, I think.
Yeah, indeed. And, well, I have to wait and see if that prefix works out for him in 2023, of course. Obviously driving for Sauber. Of course, we'll be seeing the top class guys tomorrow for practice and qualifying at 4 p.m. BST over at Road America for the first race of the season, United States Grand Prix. And it should be quite interesting to see because for the first time since 2010 that we will not be starting the season in Australia. In fact, Australia will be actually happening at round 14 this season. So it will be interesting to see. Road America has been very good for racing in the past in the OC in both DTM and, of course, World Champ Car. So I'd imagine it's going to be the same for the top class.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it was on Saturday we had a test race. It was quite chaotic. Also, we had some rain there. But we will see what happens there tomorrow on Wednesday.
Yeah, indeed, and I'm definitely looking forward to that because it looked pretty close during testing as well between three teams, four if you count Renault, of course, at the high-speed tracks, and maybe Renault could get themselves involved tomorrow, but we'll have to wait and see, really, as we look at James Sturt at the moment, who's currently, where is he, 14th at the moment in the Campos. Of course, I think Campos, if I'm not mistaken, are the only team on the grid to retain their driver lineup from last season in Sturt and Broster, of course. Obviously, Sturt had a decent season, Broster not so much, really. He had a good start to the season, but then it sort of tailed off as the season progressed, really, and well, he'll be determined not to repeat that this season.
Yeah, indeed, he will be absolutely determined to turn his luck around. Of course, as I mentioned before, Sturt had a decent season last season, but you have Broster after a good start. Of course, I think, did he win at Turkey?
I think it was, yes. It was Broster who won at Turkey. He won the first race of the season and then afterwards never really replicated that performance.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shame. But, of course, now he has another chance to redeem himself.
Yeah, indeed, and you could say that about Santino Andreoli as well, who, let's not forget, initially thought he was going to get booted off the grid, but he wasn't. He remained at Van Amersfoort for another season and has got a new teammate in Will Parrish, and, well, he'll be determined to try and get some better luck this season.
Yeah, indeed, he had at some point some really rotten luck, especially at, I don't know where it was, where he was competing at the front. I think it was the Nürburgring, where he was challenging for the win, but had, I think, an electrical problem, which put him out of contention for the win, but Andreoli.
And well, yeah, as you were saying, Dennis.
Yeah, I mean, he, of course, will... Oh, another crash. Gonzalez!
It's the man who's at the top now. It's Rubino Gonzalez. So we actually went in a period without a crash for a while. We actually went a while without one, but Gonzalez gave us an overdue one there with just over 17 minutes to go. So we've now got 13 cars left, so 2 away from a red flag, it seems. But to be honest, I find it a little bit funny if if we got to 11 left and the clock reached 0.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, especially this corner, as mentioned before, very mistake prone, and now he is, I think, the 7th or even 8th victim.
I think it's 9th actually, because I think Flo mentioned there was 8 drivers that DNF'd from the session. Maybe 8th in terms of that corner, but 9 in terms of people who have retired from this session.
Yeah, indeed. A very chaotic session, as we mentioned a few times.
Indeed so, and well, it should be quite an interesting Yeah, it should be interesting to see if anybody does get eliminated with just under 16.5 minutes to go in this session. 2 more cars left before Flo has to throw out a red flag, of course. But at least we would have covered a bit of mileage in this test rather than just the first half of the test, if that was to be the case.
Yeah, indeed. At least we had some warning.
Yeah, indeed, it's Kirby getting a little bit loose coming out of that corner, in fact, as he actually finds himself a 10th off his personal best, but I think he'll now lose a little bit more time as a result of that little mistake. He is currently, where is he at the moment? 12th position at the moment. Teammate Denholm, who obviously crashed out earlier, down in 14th, so he's not going to be able to beat Kirby for today. But yeah, I think Denholm will be determined to try and catch up with some running tomorrow when we're at Imola.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, Imola is a very different track present to this. And Imola has, of course, some very fast corners, some very the chicane, of course, or even more than one chicane. But definitely a very different track to this.
Indeed so, as we now ride on board with Joe Pedro Kirby in there, as
Zorba is the
getting a
next
little
one.
bit loose. He loses his rear wing,
lucky.
actually, so he actually survives on that occasion. So we've still got 13 cars left. But yeah, Zorbat now the latest one to make a mistake through into there, as he actually on that previous lap went up into 7th position.
Yep, indeed. So actually, Zorba is the third driver that to lose only his rear wing after Kulasek and Broster. But he, of course, has to fit.
He does indeed, and he'll have to get a new rear wing. I wonder if how long it will be until he's back out onto the racetrack now. Then there's Zorback now, then making his way around this long turn right down there. Is Lorenzo Tomaselli locking up through into turn 5 there, clearly pushing very hard in the MP Motorsport car as he now makes his way around the left-hander now. Then he goes. And well, MP Motorsport, of course, lost their team's title that they claimed. I think actually, in fact, I'm trying to remember if they were the reigning champions going into it. I can't for the life of me remember, to be honest with you. But
was it Dams?
Well, Dams won the title. No, Dams won the title last season. I'm just remembering who won it the season before.
The season before, High Tech.
Yeah. Oh, it was High Tech, yeah. I know that MP had won a title out of nowhere, but I didn't know if
2019
it was. Yeah, I was wondering there. But yeah, in the past season they've looked pretty strong, but it seems like last season it was just a little bit all over the place for the team.
Yeah, indeed, of course. They had some good performances, but then the drivers, of course, Oscar and Chris were involved either in some crashes or made big mistakes. But yeah, of course, this time around they have, well, I was about to say, a half new lineup. Of course, I think Chris stayed at the team. I'm not 100% sure.
Chris was at the team last season. He's now just got a yellow car, of course.
Yeah, definitely based on the Connorsport car of F123.
Yeah, indeed. And, well, season worked well with MP Motors. Oh, Joel Trey's crashed. Trey's crashed right at the narrow part of the track, really. And, well, it seems that the collision box at the exit of that corner is a little bit too close, really. But that's Trey's session done with. So one more car left, and Flo will have to throw the magic red flag that he has on OBS.
Yeah, and that definitely then both Tridents now out of the session, of course. Curtis was the first one to be the victim of the fake Marina bit. But yeah, definitely a session full of attrition.
It has been indeed, and Choi is another one to be added to the list, unfortunately. She ended up finishing 20th at the end. Not really ideal deal for her. I think she was expecting a little bit more.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, she's also one who has to get adapted to this kind of cars, especially with them being very different to the FE cars. But yeah, of course, it's the same for everybody.
Indeed, and
yeah,
so
it's predicted.
Yep. As now we will, as Clark meanwhile is coming back out onto the racetrack now. Then, so yeah, that's pretty much that really. As we now wait for the rest of the cars to go by. And so you will now wait and see really what if anybody else is going to improve. Lorenzo Torricelli is currently out on the racetrack. Here comes Wojciech Kulizec, who's just crossing the line, but he remains in 6th position for the time being. And I think Flo's actually waiting for who was it? Chui's car to come back into the garage because it hasn't arrived in the garage just yet, as I've noticed. So that's what Flo is currently waiting for at the moment, as just saw Zorbach going back out on track with a new rear wing, of course. So that's that really. Chui's car's still not arrived at the garage just yet, so we're still waiting for her car to appear as Chobot just comes out of the chicane there. And and in fact, Andreoli's coming back into the pit at the end of this lap for Van Amersfoort Racing, as now we look at Wojciech Kulizec now then, who's at the coming up towards the narrow bit, which is actually right next to a highway, in fact. And so yeah, that's pretty much that, as Kulizec now then just comes out of the narrow section where we saw Sana Chue have a crash a little bit earlier on, as we have just over 10 minutes to go now then in the session. So with 10 minutes to go, this is what the leaderboard looks like then. So it's Gonzalez at the top with Chobot in second, Clark in third, Parrish in fourth, Dicelli in fifth, Kulizec in sixth, with Zorbach in seventh, then it's Broster in eighth, Tomaselli in ninth, La Rosa is in 10th, with Arnold 11th, Kirby in 12th, then it is Koenig in 13th, Denholm in 14th, Sturt 15th, Thomas Anderson is in 16th, with Kress in 17th, Oscar in 18th, and then it is Chow Chinat in 19th, with Chue in 20th, Andreoli in 21st, and Curtis the only one didn't set time. As Kulizec actually now goes up into 4th position now. The top 4 now separated by 61 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, like we've seen a lot of times here in F2 and also GP2 before. Some occasions we can see the gaps being so close.
Indeed so, as Kulizec now making his way around the Fate Marina section of the racetrack, as he will now make his way out of the corner now then before making his way down this back straight, 74 thousandths off his personal best in Sector 1 now then, as he just comes around the right and left-hander. I wonder if Troy's now back into the pit lane or not, just wondering on that one, because well, last time we checked, she still wasn't back in the garage, of course. So here's Zorbach now then with his new rear wing fitted, and we'll see what his Sector 1 time is going to look like, and he's 1/10 down on his personal best in Sector 1, really. And that's that, really, as Troy's car still not in the garage.
Help, as we speak. The car's missing.
Yep, as Chobot does not improve, and Chobot remaining in second place at the moment with O2 sponsorship on his front wing there, or in the monocoque region of the car. As Kulizec not looking at an improvement, the Williams reserve driver and the reigning champion just making his way around the final couple of corners, as he now makes his way onto the pit straight, and Kulizec, she's going to cross the line very soon, but no improvement is coming up on there. But interesting why Kulizec moved over to High Tech, because it's safe to say that High Tech did not have a very good season in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, of course, at the end, it's actually, I think he wanted to join the team actually because he wants to help High Tech to get back where they belong. In their point of view, of course, to the top where they were in 21. Joey's back is now into the garage.
Yep, her car's now back into the garage, so now the spare car ban can be implemented onto the car, as Chue will no longer take part in this session. With just under 8 minutes to go now in this session, so we're now into the closing stages of this pre-season test. And Kulizec now then once again down his personal best in Sector 1. Here is Joe Pedro Kirby now then. Safe to say it was a decent season for Kirby in his first season in Formula 2, but he's now determined more than ever to try and see if he can maybe try and fight for the championship like his brother did a few seasons ago. And with Aston Martin back in, he'll be hoping he can achieve that.
Yeah, I mean, he has the opportunity to do that. Of course, he will have big competition, in fact, of everyone on this grid, because I think the first races could already set the standards of who will fight for it, and if he is in the front in the beginning, it could be good. But as we've seen a lot, especially in 2018 with Chris Chatfield, even if you have bad start, you can already a punch back in the same season.
Indeed so. Looking at Kulizec now, then he's just coming across the line with just under 7 minutes to go in this session, and no improvement, and he is 3/10 off his personal best that time by, and he's actually coming back into the pits this lap as well. Now I wonder if that's going to be it for him for the remainder of the session, because there's only just over 6.5 minutes to go in the session. There's a big lock up there for Nicholas Zorbach as he heads into the final 3 corners on the track, clearly still pushing hard in what is now known as the road in Carlin, as we saw on the graphic when the session began, of course, when Clark made his way out on track. So that's that really. So basically mimicking their real life counterpart with the road in backing. So yeah, that's that really. As here is Zorbach's teammate for this season, Michael Clark, who's maybe trying to get some slipstream off of Joe Pedro Kirby in front, and with the Damon Hill edited helmet that he's got on, and obviously based on the helmet that he wanted for the top class, should he have got a reserve role. But, well, he was offered a reserve role, but he didn't reply. So that's that, really. Now, as we look at Zorbach, who's now 32 pounds up on his personal best in Sector 1. Zorbach's currently 7th in this session, so he's looking to try and get a little bit more higher in this session now. But he's got 2 cars in front who look like a slipstream in each other. One of them being Marvo Koenig, and the other one is a Campos car. And I think both Camposes are still in this session, a Broster and a Sturt, so I'm not 100% sure which one is. I think it might be Sturt, looking at the sponsor on the side pod there, so we'll just have to see. But that was a lockup we saw a little bit earlier there from the German whilst we were running on board. It's actually Broster, it's the other one, in fact. There's no sponsor on the side pod, so what was I talking about? But Zorbach's going to get some slipstream down this straight. No, in fact, he's not, because it's Andreoli who's going to pick up the slipstream from Marvo Koenig in front of him there. So there's actually quite a few cars around that point. Andreoli trying to get by into the final corner, but it looks like Koenig is refusing to let him go. Broster goes back into the pits as Koenig now then comes across the line now then in the Charouz, as Zorbach, meanwhile, no improvement. I think he actually got held up in the end, so he remains in 7th position as a result, and he actually just overtakes Andreoli through into turn number 1 there. And I've actually noticed he's actually wearing a 2023 Pierre Gasly helmet. I wasn't aware that the 2023 helmets were now available on Grand Prix 4, but there you go. That's a 2023 helmet that Andreoli is wearing in the form of a Pierre Gasly's 2023 helmet. So, yeah.
I mean...
Still not. Oh, is that another car in the wall?
Oh, Koenig, I think that's the session done.
Yep, indeed. We're just under 4 minutes ago, so we nearly got an hour's worth of session. But Koenig, I did notice there whilst we were running on board with Andreoli, I looked to the side there, and I did see there was a car that went off in the background there. So, yeah, good spot in the end. But that is Koenig's session done with. And, well, we've had an hour's worth of time, so with all the crashes. So, in the end, we actually got a decent amount of testing in the bag there, Dennis.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, for some it was good testing, for others definitely cut short. And also one thing as a suggestion, if you want to have Miami, get on the Dodge Island track. It's much better.
Well, Rob would disagree with you on that one, but yeah, that's that really. Anyway, here is the leaderboard then as a result. Rubino Gonzalez, the 2022 DTM champion, topped the session with Adam Chobot in 2nd, Michael Clark in 3rd, with Wojtek Kulizec, the reigning champion, in 4th, with Will Parrish in 5th. Dominic DeCelli is in 6th, with Nicola Zorbach 7th. Alex Broster finished in 8th, with Lorenzo Tomaselli in 9th. Fellow compatriot Francesca La Rosa finished in 10th, with Alexander Arnold in 11th position, and you could do the rest, Dennis.
Yeah, and 12th, then we have JP Kirby. Marvo Koenig finishes the first day of testing in 13th with Ross Stanholm. In 14th, James Sturt, we have in P15. Then we have Thomas Anderson and Tobias Kress. Then Samuel Oscar in P18, Fong Chanok Chai China in P19 in the end. Sana Choi finishes day 1 in P20. Santino Andreoli in 21st. And Aaron Curtis, of course, crashed so early that he didn't get the time under his belt.
Yeah, indeed. But that is day 1 of Formula 2 preseason testing done with. Quite a chaotic day, it must be said, and obviously cut short with just over 4 minutes to go in the session due to all the chaos. And I think it's safe to say, I think Flo even said it to us, that he's never going to be using this track again after this one. Because, well, at least what Aaron Curtis put in the stream chat, at least we found these problems out during testing and not in the race itself. So I guess indeed. That's actually that's the plus we can take from that. But anyway, that has been it from day 1. Of course, there's one more day day to go for Formula 2 pre-season testing, which should hopefully be less chaotic than what today had an offer, and it will be at Imola tomorrow at the same time as 7 p.m. BST. Of course, tomorrow we'll have the practice and qualifying session ahead of the United States Grand Prix over at Road America, so do look forward to that. But until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you enjoy it, so thank you all for watching. I've been JW97, he's been Dennis, he was of course Rob from earlier on in the session before he had his illness, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.